Welcome to Income and Impact Accelerator Module 2. I'm really excited to dive into messaging today. I'm sure you are as well. So let's get off. So a lot of you guys have come into this program through my Client Magnet workshop. But we're going to go back over some of those key points just quickly to just get the sense of everything that the Client Magnet requires, and then we're going to go deeper than that workshop did to really nail our messaging. So, high level, the Client Magnet philosophy. First of all, we focus on our nano niche only. So we don't care about anybody else, we don't think about anybody else, we don't have anybody else in mind when we are writing our message. We are 100% focused on our nano niche. So this means that if, for example, we work with seven-figure business owners, even if there's plenty of questions in a group around basic business startup questions, we're not going to create content around that because our seven-figure business owners are too far ahead. We are 100% not going to be creating content to please, or at least not to, not to aggravate people in our lives, like our family, our friends, those kind of people. We're only focused on our nano niche and exactly what they need to hear from us. So that's the key. That's the first principle of Client Magnet. The second thing is that once we've nano niched, which we did last week, they've all got the same problem and they all want the same result. So we write our messaging focused precisely on the problem that our nano niche is facing and the result that they want. So for example, if I'm talking about my business, my nano niche all want to grow to $10,000 months. The problems that they're facing is things like I'm not getting clients, I can't figure out who to talk to, I don't know what my message is, all of those kind of problems, and they're all similar problems. Everybody has the same similar problem. And the result they want is all roughly the same, which is I want to get consistent clients, I want to make around $10,000 a month. That's the result. And your nano niche will have a similar problem and result. So we want to get very, very targeted with our messaging. That's the key to getting very powerful messaging that people start commenting, people start replying to you, people start responding to you, they start friend requesting you, they start reaching out to you, asking to work with you. That is the way we do that, is by getting very, very targeted. And then of course, we want to be very generous with the post that we're writing, generous with the messaging, and giving as much value as we possibly can. So here is the posting strategy. This is really the structure, the formula for our posts, how we're going to create them. So the posts are going to start with a title. Now the title wants to have that big result that people want. You want to lead with that up front. And then you want to add curiosity as well. So the title is really important for making people stop and take notice. And don't worry, we're going to be going deeper into every element of this posting strategy in just a second, but this is just the overview. After the title, we want to share a quick story about how we got the result, or how our client got the result, or whatever the story is all about. We're going to go into story in a second. And then, of course, the result is, what your nano niche wants. So that's really the underpinning of the entire message. So what's the result that you're going to talk about, and how did you get there, and tell that story. And then the value is explaining how to do it. So give the real steps of what to do. So if it's like how to get people to reach out to you cold, and start messaging you, asking to work with you, I would share the value would be 3 to 5 steps as to how to do that. Well, you got to get clear in your nano niche, you got to start posting, blah, 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 blah. You got to do all these different pieces. And then the final piece, which you leave out when you're posting in somebody else's space, but you're always welcome to put it on your post, in your space, on your profile, in your group, etc., is the call to action. So what they should do next to take the next step toward you, to allow them to swim towards you. So let's go into every single area of this posting strategy in detail. Now I'm going to need to drink some water because I've been talking a lot today, so give me 1 second. Okay, so step 1 is the result. So you want to choose one result per message. Now, you don't always have to speak to the exact same result. Like my clients want 10K months, awesome. But I can share other results that they also want. So things like how I get 100 leads connecting with me without Facebook ads, how I get 5 to 10 people reaching out to me. So, you might be a weight loss coach and your whole goal might be to lose 50 pounds, but you might have a result like how to get whatever, like the hot guy at the supermarket to check you out or something like that. Like I'm making it up, but there might be incremental results along the way. But the point here is that they're all results that our nano niche wants to have. So this is going to be something that your audience, your nano niche highly values. So it's something that's going to make them sit up and take notice. And it has to be something that either you have achieved or you've helped somebody else achieve. So for example, if you want to start a business on business coaching, but you've never actually run a business before, that's kind of out of integrity. In the same way that I don't have kids, I don't know much about them, so I would be the worst parenting coach in the world until I went and developed that skill set. So you want it to be something that you've achieved or that you've helped somebody else achieve. So then the next step of this is once we've got the result, then we have to figure out, well, what's the story around the result? How did I get that result? What happened? So you want to choose a time when you've achieved this result. Now, again, this can be your personal story or it can be how you help somebody else. And then we want to write this story very effectively. And there's 2 reasons to this. Number 1, it's because the human brain evolved through learning story. So you're actually helping your clients, giving them, or your audience, giving them even more value if you are teaching them through story, because they're going to retain more of that information. Now, this is going to help your brand. It's going to make people feel more connected to you. There's a lot of reasons why storytelling is very important in business. Now, stories capture our attention as well. So if you can share your post through story, then that's also going to capture their attention, make them more likely to read more, make them more likely to stick around and learn more from you. So that means more impact on the reader. Now, there's another part of storytelling as well, which is that, and I'll be talking about this in a second, but the reason that we share the story is that people tend to learn best when they come to their own conclusions. So you can tell somebody the best way to make $10,000 a month is through organic marketing, but that's just a statement. That could mean nothing to that person. Whereas if you share your story of how you used to use ads and then this happened and then that happened and it was really bad and then you discovered this amazing thing and you could actually get clients without ads and it was so cool and then you started getting tons and tons of clients, that story is connecting much more with them and they're being led to that conclusion without you telling them the conclusion. So it's a much more natural way for them to learn and for them to connect with you. So all compelling stories, pretty much all compelling stories, I haven't yet to think of one that doesn't follow this arc. They follow the same story arc, which is the hero's journey. Now, there's a book on this by Joseph Campbell, The Hero with 1,000 Faces, which is, if you really want to dig deeper into this, it's a great read. But, anywhere that you are, if you're watching a movie, if you're watching a soap opera or reading a book or anything, you'll see that these story arcs tend to come into play. So you'll see this the next film that you watch. Once you realize the story, you'll start understanding what I mean. So what is the hero's journey? So the hero, first of all, the hero's journey, there has to be a hero. There has to be somebody that the audience connects with, that the audience starts rooting for and really wants to see win. So they have to have some kind of emotional connection with that hero. Second up, the hero has to have a desire. He can't just be like waking up on a Sunday morning to read the paper. He needs to want to achieve something. There needs to be some reason for us to take an interest in him. The third piece of the hero's journey is that once he has that desire, there needs to be a conflict. That's why there's always bad guys in movies. There's always something that's going a bit wrong because that's what creates the interest in the movie. So the hero has a desire, he faces a conflict, and then almost always within the hero's journey, some kind of guide appears. Now, this guide could be a person, this guide could be a new technology, it could be anything that is going to help the hero achieve his desire. So together, the hero and the guide are going to make a plan, and they are going to try to figure out how to make his desire come true. But then there's going to be more conflict. In fact, there's going to be an even bigger conflict, which is the make or break moment of the movie. This is like, you know how you have these movies where it's like a war scene and it's like the end of the world and like everybody's dying and it's like, is this country really going to make it? Like that's the make or break scene. And then, or, you know, it could be like the lovers and they want to be together, but then, you know, the dad locks her away and you don't know that, or she thinks that he cheated on her. And so she's like not going to talk to him and you're wondering whether they're going to make it. That's the make or break moment. Once they overcome this make or break moment, the hero achieves his or her desire. He gets the girl, she gets the guy, he saves the world, something, whatever he wanted, that happens. But then there's also an internal personal transformation of the hero as well. So I'll be talking more about that in just a second. And then the final piece is the big why. So why was this important to us? Why did we connect with this story? I'll be talking about that in just a second as well. So that's the hero's journey in a nutshell, these 9 main parts. So remember I said there was the desire, the transformation, and the bigger why. So these are 3 types of desire, and they're all really important within the story. So the first thing is there has to be an external thing that the hero wants. He wants to get the girl, he wants to win the race, he wants to, you know, become king, like whatever it might look like. He has to have a goal he's looking for, he's trying to get to. That's the result that they want. Now in your stories, this is obviously going to be the result that your audience wants. But then there's an internal desire as well, which is something that people feel too vulnerable to share openly. And that's how they transform as people. So that's something like they want to become more confident, they want to get the love, they want to, go from being like selfish to being a beautiful person. Like there's something there that it's either like a fear that they feel like they're not enough, or they feel like they need to do this to achieve something internal, something emotional. And your audience also have this as well. So they want to lose weight for a reason. They want to make 10K months for a reason. They think it's going to help them feel more confident. They think it's going to help them get love. They think it's going to help them, get the girl they want. Like whatever it's going to be, they're going to have a reason that they want to achieve that result. And that's the true reason they're going to buy. So this internal desire is really, really important. That's the true reason they're going to want to actually take action. And then the bigger why of the story is more connected to like the impact piece. It's like, why is this important overall? Why is it important that the bad guys don't win? Why is it important that we defeat the Nazis? Well, it's important because we don't want injustice in the world. We believe in freedom. We believe in democracy. Like all of these types of bigger ideals are the undercurrent of the bigger why of the story. You know, why Bridget Jones has to get the guy? Well, because we as women want to know that normal people can succeed, normal people can find love as well. So there's this bigger why behind the story. So I'm going to run you through a quick hero's journey example. This is Lord of the Rings. If you haven't yet watched the movie, it's been like 20 years. You're probably not going to watch it, so I apologize for the spoilers, but I'm hoping that you guys have already seen it because you'll be able to follow along. And if you've never seen it before, flip forward for the next 5 minutes or just handle the spoilers because you're probably not going to watch it ever if it came out 20 years ago and you haven't seen it yet. So here's an example of the hero's journey. So there's this hero, he's called Frodo Baggins, and he's this little young hobbit just hobbiting around in Hobbiton and just relaxed, and nothing's really going on in his life. But he has a desire. He wants to go on adventures. He wants to go and see the world and have some fun. He wants to get out of the tiny little place that he lives in. Then some conflict comes in. Gandalf shows up and he's like, hey dude, you got to take this ring and there's all this stuff going on and it's really important that we actually save the world right now. There's some conflict. There's some bad guys. There's something that Frodo has to do. Gandalf obviously is the guide. He's able to help Frodo, to tell him what to do, to tell him which roads to take, to give him the beginnings of a plan. So, take the ring to the elves. And then obviously after he meets the elves, Frodo ends up having to take the ring all the way to Mordor. So they create this plan. he and Sam are gonna take the ring to Rivendell to see the elves, and then eventually they're gonna walk through all the places they've got to walk through to get to Mordor to put the ring in the fire. That's the plan. But, I mean, poor old Frodo, I don't know if you've seen the film, but there's probably like 10 make or break moments. He gets stabbed, he gets caught up with the spider. The real big make or break comes when he's like nearly at the mountain and he is actually overcome by the power of the ring, and he doesn't even know that he can throw it in anymore. He wants to keep it for himself, and then in the end, what's his name? What's the little, not the Hobbit, the other one? Precious. You know who I mean. Gollum. Gollum ends up snatching the ring and falls in the fire by mistake. So that's really like the big make or break moments of the movie. Then the achievement, obviously, is the ring ends up in the fire. Sauron is taken away or killed or whatever you can do to Sauron, and there's no bad guys left in the world. Then Frodo, his transformation is he's this little hobbit, just chilling in his life, and he becomes this brave, strong warrior. He becomes wise. He becomes, he grows up in a way. He becomes more of a hero than he ever was before. So there's this growing up transformation of Frodo. And then the bigger why, obviously, is that all the innocent people of Middle-earth deserve to live a happy life. They deserve to just be able to be innocent and hobbits and just go about their daily lives. And there's this bigger why of we need to defeat evil so that we can, so that goodness can reign and that we can all get on with our lives. So that's the rough hero's journey of The Lord of the Rings. So how does this relate to your message? Well, the prospective client, your nanoniche, your audience, they are the hero of everything that you write. So you're always keeping them in mind in every story. In the same way that you can relate to Frodo and his struggles. You're not a hobbit, but you can relate to this need for adventure, this, pushing yourself beyond your extremes, this need to save the world and to have this bigger why. Like, you can relate to that. You can relate to Bridget Jones, even though you're maybe not a bit overweight and, running around living in London. Like, there's heroes in the story, but they represent the audience. It's when the audience can connect with them and relate to them that the story is a success. So your prospective client is the hero of everything you write. Now, you might actually be the hero of the story, but only in the sense that you serve as the character who represents your client. So if I were to write a story about how I made 10K months, I'm telling it about me, obviously, because I was the one who did it, but I'm sharing it because my clients, my prospective clients, can relate to that hero. So it's not about you, it's about how they can live through you and achieve that result through you. So if you ever need to come into the story, you really need to position yourself as the guide, your work as the guide. So you have the answers and the solutions that they seek. And we're going to go and explain this in a bit more detail in a second. So if you want to create a powerful story, all stories must have conflict to be interesting. Okay? And again, like I said, they must touch the deeper fears, these more internal desires and transformations that the audience wants. So you want to invoke the internal fears, you want to invoke the bigger why elements so that your audience feels like you understand them. You really see into them and see what their struggles are. If it's just like, hey, one day I decided I was going to make $10,000 a month and it was kind of hard for a while, but then I made it. It was awesome. That's a really crap story. Whereas if I'm like, so I wanted to make $10,000 a month, but I really doubted whether I could ever even manage it, and I could just see everybody else around me. They were so successful, and I was like, why am I not figuring this out? And I was just struggling, and I was trying so hard, and I was spending so much money, and at one point I thought I was going to have to go back to a job, but then I figured this thing out, and I discovered how you could actually post on Facebook and get clients, and suddenly I started getting comments, and then I started getting people reaching out to me, and then eventually I started getting clients, and it was amazing, and then I started making $10,000 a month. That story, first of all, is way more interesting because there's conflict and because you are invoking the deeper fears of the audience. You're talking about how they're feeling on the inside. Now, on top of that, you've also positioned your work, your strategies, the way that you help people. So, for example, the way I help people, for example, is through like the client magnet system. It's through posting really great posts on Facebook. And so you've brought that into the story. That's really like the guide in the story. So you want to be able to bring that in for sure and make sure that you're connecting the epiphany in the story to the work that you do. I mean, let's face it, like imagine there was no conflict in the story and it was like Frodo woke up one day and Gandalf came to him and was like, I need you to take the ring to Mordor. He was like, all right, cool. And then he walked to Mordor and then he put the ring in the fire. Like, how boring is that story? There needs to be conflict for it to be interesting. That's why all series end in a cliffhanger. That's why we always end up watching 6 episodes of Netflix instead of 1, because we want to know what happens, because they're ending on the conflict. You want to know what happens next when there's a conflict. So, like I said, the purpose of this story is that the story must create an epiphany for the reader. So you use this story to help them figure out that your solution is the right solution, but you want them to figure that out on their own. You want to guide them to that result without telling them that result. So they've got to draw their own conclusion that your solution is actually the solution. So that's like in the story I just told you about 10K months. When I was discovering the fact that there was organic posting on Facebook, that's when things started turning around for me. And so the reader thinks, oh, epiphany, posting on Facebook's the right thing to do. So that's the purpose of the story, is to create this epiphany for the reader. Now, there is an absolutely fantastic book by Russell Brunson called Expert Secrets. And I have read this, I don't even know how many times, but I go back to this anytime I'm launching something new. I go back to this and I go back through the storytelling. I go back through the way that he structures his stories so that I can bring that into the way that I'm promoting my new thing. So his hero's journey story is similar. There's a hero, he has an external desire, but really has an internal fear. He realizes he has a problem. This problem creates pain. So that's when it's like, it was really tough. I was worried. I thought I might have to go back to a job, blah, 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 blah. That kind of pain. He tries to get out of his pain with a plan. It gets to make or break. And then he makes a discovery which solves the problem. And this discovery is always your work. And it's the truth, right? Like, I wouldn't teach you how to make 10K a month without ads if I only ever knew how to write ads, right? Like, that wouldn't make any sense. So this discovery is always the actual discovery that you actually made. Like, what was your epiphany around this program? Around the work that you do. So maybe you're a weight loss coach and you were trying for so long to lose weight, and then you discovered low carb and boom, it started working for you. There's one example. Or maybe you're a relationship coach and you were trying so hard to get dates for so long, and then you discovered, masculine, feminine energy, and then when you started implementing that, suddenly all the men were eating out of your hand. Something like that. But there's a discovery here which is going to solve the problem. And because they discover that problem, they make that discovery, they're able to achieve their desire, and then they're able to transform that internal fear. So that's the Russell Brunson hero's journey. Now, your story must create authority. So the other element of the story, not only are you leading people to the epiphany, but you're also positioning yourself as somebody who knows what they're talking about. Why should we ever listen to anybody? We've got to be given a reason to listen to people. And so you listen to people who are a few steps ahead of you. You listen to people who have achieved the results you want to achieve. So if I say something like, exactly how I made $10,000 last month, and you want to make $10,000, you're probably going to listen to me. So we want our story to create authority. And one of the ways that we do that is we can note our own results in passing in the story. So that could be something like, and I started to write these Facebook posts and people started connecting with me, and eventually I ended up getting 100 leads a week reaching out to me. Now that's my result, the 100 leads a week. I'm just putting that into the story. It's just in passing part of the story, but it's setting me up as an authority. You could say something like, and then when I started eating low carb, over 8 months on that diet, I lost 72 pounds. That's setting you up as the authority on someone who loses weight because you've already lost the weight. So you want to be very specific here with your authority. So you want to share numbers where you can. Don't say something like, and then I got featured in the media. State what media you got featured in. Don't state like, and then I got around 100 people. Be like, I got 103 people. Because the more specific the number, the more realistic it is, because it's your actual result. So if you can say I made $10,532, that is more powerful than saying I made $10,000, because it's like the very, very specifics of it, and it sounds more realistic. And it is more realistic because that's what you actually did make. Okay, so here's a couple of authority examples. So my title has authority, how I sold 100 hours of coaching in just 1 week. And then I have some, I just sneak in my certificate. I don't sneak them in, that's not fair. It's genuinely part of the story. But part of the story is how I got certified by Tony Robbins. And that's a level of authority, right? So I got certified by these two, celebrity people, Tony Robbins and Chloe Dennis. That's an element of authority. Here's another piece of authority. So how I overcome, I can't afford it on sales calls. When I first started my business, I used to hear the dreaded words, I can't afford it all the time. Now I almost never do. And then obviously if you press continue reading, you would get all the value. And so this is a very, very, very short story. It's not the best story, but I had more value in that post. And so it was more like a just quick set up the context and then go into the value. But the now I almost never do is the authority. So I almost never hear I can't afford it on sales calls. So therefore I'm pretty good at sales calls. That's the general gist of what's happening in that post. Here's another one. How to build a loyal community. When you run a coaching business, you start a movement. So blah, blah, blah. Within a few weeks, I developed a growing and super engaged group of ideal clients who loved my message. They show up on every live stream. They save and reread all my posts. They share my message with their friends, and they tag me as the expert in other people's posts. Those 4 lines at the bottom there, that's the authority. So I'm getting these results. That's the authority. Okay? So I want you now to go to the workbook, and actually no, the workbook is slightly different. I want you to open like somewhere where you're going to store information that you can come back to. So I love Google Docs. Maybe you want to use like Evernote, or you just use like a Word document, like whatever makes sense for you. But I love online cloud-based sources because you can't lose them. So you can't like lose your hard drive or have your computer break or any of that kind of stuff. And I want you to create a story bank. So I want you to list all of the ways that you've got results that your clients want. So this is going to be obviously like the main thing. So for a business coach, that might be how much money you've made, or a weight loss coach, how much weight you've lost. But then there's going to be secondary things as well. So for example, I'm a business coach. I'll show you here. I'm talking here about how to build a loyal community. That's something that my clients want. How to overcome, I can't afford it on sales calls. That's a very specific thing that my clients want to hear. How I sold 100 hours of coaching. Well, that's not 10K, but it's like a very cool story, right? So it's like how I'm making sales. That's what my clients want to hear. So list all of the ways that you've got results that your clients want. And then you want to remember here that we're really focused on our nano niche. So what is the client, your ideal client? What are the problems that they are facing? And then you can share when you face those problems, and what are the results that they want. So share how you got those results. So, if you're working with brand new business owners, you're probably not going to talk about how you built your team to 35 people, because it's not really relevant right now. Likewise, if you're working with actresses who want to look amazing on set, you're probably not going to share how you lost the first 10 pounds of your 100-pound weight loss and you went from 200 pounds to 195 pounds. Like, that's not so relevant, right? So you want to remember that the client is the hero and you're talking to them where they are now. And maybe you've created those results for yourself. Maybe you've created those results for other people. Write down all those different types of stories that you have. And then another great source for posts are, what are the questions that your audience is asking? Now these can be people who are actually asking you direct, maybe when they're reaching out to you or commenting on your posts. This could be people, like you could go into other people's groups and look at what your nano niche is posting about and asking about, and you can start answering those kind of questions as well. So for example, the how to overcome I can't afford it on sales calls, that's from a question that people have been asking me. So that's another great source for posts as well. And this story bank, think of it as like a living, breathing document. So it's always going to be getting added to. You can always take stories from it and use them as posts, and you can like recycle them and use them in different ways. But this is going to be like really your hub for all your stories, which is why I suggest that you do that on a cloud-based platform, because that way you're able to really, really keep that where no matter what happens to your tech. Okay, so that was the story side of things. So we had the result, then we had the story. Now step 3 is the value. How do we give value in the posts? So the first thing is that we don't just want to brag. Now, how many times have you seen these kinds of screenshots in people in Facebook groups? And it's like, oh my God, I made 50K this month. How amazing am I? And it's like, that's authority, right? There's tons of authority there. How did this person make 48K? I want to know. Like, this person must know what they're doing in business if they made 48K. But the problem there is that they're not giving value, and so the audience cannot connect with them. The audience isn't learning anything, and you're essentially just bragging. You're just saying how amazing you are and not actually helping people to come to their own epiphanies and to come to their own learnings about your process. So we want to give the how-to. We want to share exactly how you got to your result. So your points should be actionable immediately so that your readers can actually go away and get results from reading that post standalone. So, for example, if I was sharing how to make 10K a month, I don't keep the whole nano-niching thing a secret. I'm not like, well, you only get to learn how to nano-niche if you're in my program. I will talk about nano-niching in my post, for example. And you want to make these easy step-by-step type posts. So you want it to be like clear and simple, and also not like super, super long. Like if it's a complex topic, so something like how I launched a business from scratch and made $10,000, obviously your step-by-step areas are going to be high level. You can't get into the ins and outs of it in one Facebook post. So we're not expecting that. But you want it to be a robust answer that is giving at least the headlines of what it takes to achieve that result. Now, you want your post to be not like horribly long. So like 500, 1,000, like maximum like 15,000, 1,500 words. And you usually want to share like 3 to 7 points of value. If you need more, give more. Like I have an 8-step process. I could do 10 steps from time to time. It's not really that important, but you definitely want to have a good chunk of text, but also you don't want it to go on and on and on and on and on. You don't want it to be too in-depth because people aren't necessarily going to read all of that. And I will put some examples of my posts in the portal so that you can easily access them. So once you've got your result, you've got your story, you've got your value written out, then it's time to choose the title. So the title, you already know roughly what it's going to be because you know the result, but there's different ways to communicate exactly what you want to say. So headlines are really important, and that's why I write them last, because they have to catch the attention of your nano niche. Because think about it, if you don't read the first couple of lines, you're not going to click the see more button and keep reading, are you? So the first couple of lines of your post are really important because that's what's going to capture the attention of the nano niche and give them enough information that they choose to keep reading. So you want eye-catching headlines. So the eye-catching headlines must contain the result, and obviously only the results that your nano niche wants. And the reason this is so important is that people are not going through Facebook thinking, how can I support a business coach today? Or how can I support a weight loss coach today? They're going on Facebook being like, how the hell do I lose the weight? How on earth do I make money in my business? And that's the only thing they're thinking about. And so when they're like, I wish I could make 10K, and then a post that pops up saying exactly how I made 10K last month, they're going to want to read it because that's the exact problem that they are facing, that they are thinking about. Now, you will also want to add an element of curiosity. So you want them to think, interesting, how did they do that? So that you've caught their attention and they want to find out more, so that they're more likely to actually keep reading and then click that see more button and read the whole post. So there's various ways to create curiosity. So one way is to create some kind of a framework or a system or a structure to how you did things. So that could be like 5 steps I took to make $10,000 months. And people are like, oh, what are those 5 steps? I want to know. Another way of phrasing it is as a question. So you could write, is this why you aren't making 10K a month? And they could be wondering, I wonder, is it why I'm not making 10K a month? Maybe I should read this and find out. Specificity is also a great way of creating curiosity. So exactly how I made 10K last month. Well, how exactly did she do it? There must be some like special secret system going on here. How she do it? Shock as well is a great one. So the surprising way I made 10K last month, the shocking way I made 10K last month, the different way, the way that you'd never believe how I made 10K last month. That's all shock related. And they're like, oh, surprising? Well, it must be different. I wonder what it's going to be. And they're going to read. Using some kind of little time as well. Now, obviously, this has to be a real result. So how I made $10,000 in 2 weeks is a real result. You know, how I have a post, how to create authority in 2 weeks or less. Because I literally did start seeing my authority increase vastly within 2 weeks. But obviously this time amount has to be real, right? And then the final way is how to do something without having to do what they don't want to do. So how to make $10,000 a month without getting on sales calls. How to make $10,000 a month without paying for ads. How to lose weight without giving up pizza. Something like that. So the without giving up what they don't want to give up. That's a really good thing. Or it could also be without doing what they fear. So it could be like how to make $10,000 a month without paying for ads. That's something that they don't want to do. Or how to lose weight without giving up pizza. Is they don't want to give up the pizza. So therefore without having to do the thing they don't want to have. Also, if it's quite a broad topic, like if I'm in a main like entrepreneurship group and I only work with coaches, I might call out that nano niche or my niche at least, in the headline. So rather than being like how to make $10,000 a month, which could be through like e-com or anything else, that could be how coaches can make $10,000 a month because I work with coaches. So that could be one option. Saying like if you work with busy moms, 5 steps to lose weight, well that could mean like working out for 6 hours, which they can't do, but 5 steps for busy moms to lose weight. Oh, interesting. I'll read that because that sounds like me. So other tips for headlines, you want to use specific numbers or data. So things like 3 steps to get asked out this week, or why 82% of women don't lose weight and how you can be in the 18% who do. And you know, this data could come from like a research report or something. It doesn't have to be like you make things up, but you know, using those kind of stats can just like brings a little bit extra, like a little bit of curiosity into the headline. And another thing, like I mentioned before, is to be very specific. So like how I got a 72% sales conversion rate is a lot more of an interesting headline than how I get a good sales conversion rate, for example. So being specific. Another way to consider your headlines is that a lot of people are, in fact, every single person in the world has more aversion to loss than they do to gain. So for example, a lot of people would rather, if you give them $100, they would do anything in the world to hold on to that $100. But if you told them, if you do this, you can gain $100, they'll be less motivated to do it. So people are biased to avoid pain. So if you say something like the 3 mistakes I made in my first year in business and how you can avoid them, they're going to want to check that out because they don't want to make those same mistakes. So you can use words like avoid, mistakes, held me back, something like that to cover this loss type of fear that people have. Super important tip. You want to be clear before you're ever clever. So you want to make it super, super obvious what you're talking about and who you're talking to. You want to use super basic language because confused people don't act. And it's not that your audience is stupid, they're definitely not, but they're not necessarily engaging their whole brain on Facebook. They're probably scrolling, they're probably feeling a bit tired, they're probably bored at work. Like, you've got to understand the context that people are experiencing your work in. They're not going into this knowing that they're going to have an exam on it at the end. So they're not going to be bringing their full brain power to it. And the harder you make people work, as in like their brain work to understand what you're saying, the more they're just going to slide across it. Like they don't care. They're just going to keep moving. So make it super, super obvious, and also call it out. Really be like, how coaches can make $10,000 this month. Something like that. Like, you want to be super, super obvious and not have a really flowery, interesting headline. Like, be very clear before you're clever. And of course, make it super easy for your reader to know why they will benefit. So if they want to make 10K a month, tell them how they're going to make 10K a month in the headline. Like, be really, really upfront with the headline. And then the final step of our post is the call to action. And this is how we help people take the next step toward us. So in your own posts, you always want to finish with a call to action to take the next step. Now, this could be to join your group, this could be to book a sales call, this could be to PM you about a program or something like that, or it could be to download your free whatever it is that you have. So you always want to make it very clear what to do next. Now, you want to make sure that they understand why they should take this next step. So you want to explain what's the result of taking this action. What are they going to get from it? So that could be something like, if you're looking to improve your sales conversion rates, you're going to love my training coming up next week, which is all about how I created a 72% conversion rate for a program that's worth $7,500. So that's really clear. Like, they're going to learn how you got a 72% conversion rate and how they can implement that for themselves. That's very, very clear about what the result of this is going to be. And the other importance of the call to action is that the more you actually make offers, the more people actually see them and the more people are actually going to take you up on them. So you have to be really, really obvious for people to notice that you have something for sale, that you even have something for free quite often. So be really obvious in your call to action. Say, hey, if you want X, here's what you can do to get it. So if you want to learn how to make 10K a month, join my XYZ free training. If you want to improve your sales conversion rate, join this free workshop I'm doing on sales conversion rates. Like, whatever the offer is, but just be really, really obvious about what's there for on offer. So when I'm posting, I'm really posting in general to people who don't know me. So it's either on my Facebook profile, these are colder people who have not yet joined my group or booked a call with me or done my workshops or anything like that. And also, especially in other people's groups, they're super, super cold. They probably never heard of me. Obviously, I wouldn't post a CTA in people's groups anyway, so ignore that. But if I'm on my personal profile, I'm more focused on getting people to do something that gets them closer to me that doesn't involve a sale. So it's usually like, join my list, join my community, join my group to see a specific training, join Client Magnet if I'm launching Client Magnet, get another kind of a freebie if I would have another kind of free thing. So it's all around what's the next step that they could take that's free. Then once they're on my list, once they're in my workshops, once they're in my community, then I'll start making more sales-oriented offers, like to book a sales call or to join a program or something like that. But it's just that I want them to have enough value from me and to get to know me well enough and know and like and trust me enough through free things before I start talking too much about all the stuff I have for sale. Because they're not going to buy from you unless they already know and like and trust you and think that you're actually going to help them. So I try to help people first and then ask afterward. So where should you post your call to action? So you need to post your call to action at the end of your value post. So this is on your profile, on your business page, in your group. But most groups that are not yours are not going to allow you to self-promo. And a call to action with a link to do something would be considered self-promo. So check the group rules. Maybe there's some that you can do that. It's so awesome. But in general, I would say most groups and communities wouldn't let you do that. So you wouldn't add your call to action at the end. Now, here's a tip of what I like to do with the call to action. So I will write my post. I will post it on my profile. I will copy paste that across all the different groups that I'm in. And then I will go back and I will take the call to action post and I will post that on my profile as a separate post, because everybody who's read my posts in other people's groups, remember there's no call to action there. So I just told them my 5 steps to make 10K a month or whatever it is that I'm teaching them. And then they click on my name to go and check out my profile. I want them to then see my call to action immediately. So they're not going to reread the same post they already read, but they will see that call to action post directly above at the top of my profile. And so then they'll say, oh, interesting, Rosie has a free training, I'll go check it out, and they might sign up. So that's what I tend to do with my call to action posts. I write the main value post, and then I will repost just the call to action directly above that on my profile. Now, the final piece for your post is that you've got to choose an image for it. So image posts get more traction on the platform algorithms. So I also like to use post images because people start to recognize your face. So I always post a picture of myself every time, because then my face is getting connected to my message. People don't always like register exactly who's writing the name, but they'll start to get to know your face. So I have professional photo shoots done. I actually haven't had one done in years. I'm due for an upgrade on that, but I tend to just use like super natural, super informal selfies. So I love to just have like an interesting or a bright background, because that's just going to catch the attention more. And I often just whack on some makeup and go and take like 6-7 pictures out somewhere interesting. And then that's my pictures for the week. Like I keep it super, super simple. I'm not like making sure that I'm selfie ready every single day, because I'm not. I'm not that kind of person. So another cool thing is like an image that can tell a story as well. So can you, for example, offer authority through your image? So let's say you met a celebrity or you won an award or something like that. Like you could share authority that way through your image. Also, if your story is like linked to something, so I'll share like my Thanksgiving story in a second, you'll see the picture to that. Having an image that way can kind of tell a story and be a bit interesting as well. So here's some examples of my images for my posts. So all of these are selfies. Like this one, you can see it's like I'm making a funny expression. So this is more if I talk about like fear or something like that. I often use this picture. It's just a bit eye-catching because of the expression. This one is just a normal selfie where I look kind of, put together and okay. It's kind of boring, but it's an okay picture. This one, I was literally in Mexico. You can see like the humidity is insane. I could do nothing with my hair. I'm barely even wearing makeup, but I'm on this nice blue wall, so it's quite eye-catching. So that's a pretty good picture as well. We also have a few other pictures. So for example, I have this wall here where we currently are in Florida, in a parking lot. Like I could just take a picture there. These were taken on the same day. I'm literally wearing the same shirt, but it doesn't look like the same kind of picture, right? So this is another, I think these are like, it's like a bin area, like a trash area, and it's just got like these high gates. I just took a picture there. And like you can see again, like the angle I'm at, it kind of gives like some depth to the picture. So it looks a bit different, it's like a little bit interesting. And then here's my Thanksgiving picture. My husband literally took it as we were cooking the food. Like I was writing stories particularly about Thanksgiving, so it makes sense. But I wouldn't post this in like other pictures. But sometimes telling a story is pretty good with your posts. So now I would like you to go through the workbook and to write down. You'll follow the steps in the workbook to start crafting your first post, your first story, your first value, and kind of go through that step by step. And I would love for you to write at least one post before our call so that we can discuss that on the call if you want to. So there's the coaching call coming up for this module in around, well, as I post this module, it's going to be in a week's time, but it'll be, in a few days from when you see it. So if you want to discuss your post on that, then you can post that in the group, or bring the post in some way that I can read it, and let's start practicing our posts and start writing them out. And if you want to just immediately start going with it, then feel free. We can you can start posting. We'll be going into where to post, how to find Facebook groups and things next week. But if you want to start taking action, go for it. Like you don't need to wait for the program ever. So there's no rush or harm in you starting to actually go for it. Eventually, by the next call, I want you to write the one post that we can go through it. But then I want you to start writing at least 3 to 5 posts a week. And as I said, you can start posting them now if you want to. And you also want to measure your post results per group and per post. So I'm going to put the template sheet, the Google Sheet. Below that, you can download that template and use that as a way to start tracking the results of your posts. Awesome. So I will see you in a second for the mindset module. So I'll see you in a second. Bye for now, guys.